to a new episode of the Corner Office Conversations, the chat room where I speak to CEOs, business leaders to understand their journey, what they're up to today, their leadership styles, and how they continue to win through the most turbulent of times. Today I'm joined by a very exciting young leader from an industry which all of us see every day, but practically none of us are familiar with. Vineet Agarwal, welcome to the Corner Office Conversations from the Transport Corporation of India. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And before we dive in, just to share a little bit about your background with our viewers. Vineet actually joined the Transport Corporation 24 years ago, almost a quarter century now, straight after an engineering degree from the prestigious Carnegie Mellon University in the US. He has, traversed a fantastic kind of landscape through this 2.5 decades, and we'll walk through some of that. Along the way, he's also kind of committed himself to giving back to the business community, to society, and among other things, he's now the incoming president of the ASSOCHAM, which is one of the leading kind of lobby groups and business associations in the country. I'm also aware that he does a lot of work through the All India Management Association to help young entrepreneurs and young business leaders to get them mentorship, to help them through that platform. And among other things, chairs the YLC, as it's called, the Young Leaders of Forum. And we'll touch upon that as well as we go through this conversation. And he's got a very interesting philosophy on reading and books, and I won't steal his thunder on that. So without further ado, Mr. Vineet Agarwal, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jaideep.
Lovely to have you with us. And let me start by, rewinding your memory all the way back to when you kind of joined the business. You were a young graduate and you joined the TCI, which was at that time effectively a brand new entrepreneurial company, a standalone company, finding its own feet. And you went through the most interesting induction. So tell us a little bit about the early days here.
Yes, 1996, I just finished my undergrad, and incidentally it was not engineering but different degrees, but very interesting things like decision support systems, etc. that I studied at Carnegie Mellon, and just straight away jumped into the business. At that time, actually, our family was going through a split, and my father, who had one portion of the business of TCI, and we were just one single business unit at that time. So as you rightly said, entrepreneurial and literally brand new. Mm-hmm. Though the company my grandfather had started in 1958, that time in 1996, it seemed like it was brand new. And, as soon as I came in, I did not really have that expectation that I will straight away jump into the driver's seat and do different things. Mm-hmm. Because, the nature of our business of transportation and logistics is so ground level up that you have to touch the earth, you have to touch the ground first. And I think I can say this confidently now, but perhaps at that time it wasn't, I didn't necessarily always feel that way. Mm-hmm. So my father put me through a really cool induction program where I actually didn't have a desk for 9 months. So I used to flit in and out of the office. I was assigned to a branch office out of that possibly 600-700 offices that we had then. Mm-hmm. Every morning I used to go there, clean the office, jhadu laga and all that stuff.
Wow, okay.
And then the day's work used to be that material used to come in and you need to mark it with at that time a green colored ink. I don't know if you've seen those cartoon boxes with green ink on it. So you used to mark that, and invariably the mark used to come on your hand, on your clothes, on your face. And I used to come back home and my mom used to say that abhi lagta hai ki kaam karke aaya hai. Right. He was also then loading trucks, unloading trucks, traveling more than 25 days in a month. Going to smaller locations, understanding what customers want, from the smallest trader to large conglomerates. Mm-hmm. It was almost like my own discovery of India, and really fascinating journey, and really gave me the I would say the strength to think about things at the ground level.
But I'm guessing when you look back now, I mean, that period and the experience you gleaned there probably helps you make better decisions today. And, gives you that confidence that, whatever's happening in the remote depots or wherever the trucks might be, you know what it's like. So isn't that the case?
Yeah, so, about a few years ago, we re-looked at our value systems of what is there, and we realized that nothing has changed in that value system. And the value system that our company has is something called CORE, customer focus, responsive, so ownership, responsive, and empathy. Right. And that last part of the empathy is what, I realize, at least the compassion that you need to have. Because at that lowest level, at that branch level, the guy is going to load a truck in 45 degrees heat, or if it is 5 degrees Celsius, the person is going there and loading the trucks. We have an office in Leh. We used to have an office in Kargil during the war.
Wow.
We have an office in the hottest part of the country, from the coldest to the hottest. So I think that what you rightly said is that essence of what is happening at the ground level is that feeling that I have, and to some extent understand. And I think we are able to lead the company with all those stakeholders in line with those.
That's cool. And you kind of finished your induction, and then you got thrown into a very strategic kind of set of discussions that were initiated. And Toyota was, I think, already established or just about coming into the country. And for one of the global logistics partners, there was a JV to be sort of sorted out with TCI, and you were put in charge of that. And tell us a little bit about that experience. And at a young age, how did you navigate those waters, and what advice would you give aspiring young leaders today on those kinds of matters?
So I think this was around 97 or so, 97, 98, and one of Toyota was going to set up a plant in Bangalore and start production in the end of 1999. They came to through one of their associates, Mitsui and Company, to us saying that we want to set up a logistics company, and this company will start operating 2 years hence. And we were sort of, wondering, why have people come 2 years before and setting up something? And that's the whole concept of planning that we started to understand about the Japanese philosophy, which is that, you spend 60% of the time planning and 40% of the time execution, versus the other way around for different geographies. And that learning was intense, and which meant that I was all of, I think, 23, 24 when I started negotiating the joint venture for the company. And it was a very, very tough experience, because not only I had to travel to different parts of the world to understand how to do the logistics, but how do we implement it back in India. And the whole journey of that negotiation, setting up the company, was an extremely, extremely learning experience. My father was very benevolent to actually tell me that you should become the chairman of that company, because he said that you have to lead it. And I think to any entrepreneur that's looking into setting up joint ventures or thinking about an entrepreneurial journey, it's clearly very important to think through all the processes. Think through all the long-term impact of that entity or that company into your own life, as well as how it's going to impact society overall. Because sometimes we're looking at only at the business problem and not necessarily the entire impact of everything. And the follow-on story of that is that company went into a severe loss right after.
All right.
So we had not planned enough or properly, and for 3 years we were bleeding and nearly wiped out the entire net worth of the company. So I spent a month in Japan, a few months in Bangalore, where the joint venture was established, and tried to get the company back on track. And fortunately, we were able to. And this joint venture is now more than 20 years old. The most successful Indian-Japanese joint venture in the logistics sector.
So it's still going, is it?
it is still going.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. And very profitable and amongst the best safety records in the country. One of the ideas of the company was, from a societal perspective, how do we reduce the number of accidents that happen on the roads?
That's a noble goal, and long may that metric stay green. Especially with the terrible road safety statistics the country has. That's just commendable. And let me fast forward a little bit, because I think TCI was amongst sort of the first where, as a family, you took a strategic decision to really set up the company for the 21st century, to set it up for scale, to professionalize management. And it resulted in the creation of, SBUs, and then you folks over a period of time hired many CEOs who are running different businesses now. And to a great extent, I would say that, it's board governed and professionally run as an organization. But I'm sure it must have been a tough journey. I mean, transforming a family run enterprise into a professionally run enterprise governed by the board. Always exciting, I'm sure, but give us some of the war stories from that journey here.
Yeah, so family businesses have their own dimensions, and there are dimensions of between the family members, there are dimensions of family members and employees, and there's the dimension of family members as other stakeholders or shareholders. In our case, that is other shareholders include, since we're a listed company, we always had that external shareholder base as well. And then finally the governance structure around it. So that evolution was slowly executed, in the sense that we started off with one of the divisions having having a CEO run that business as a complete SBU. And slowly we started looking at other growth areas and added, once we started and incubated those growth areas inside other companies, one of the other SBUs. So, we would have an SBU with a CEO, incubate maybe a small part inside that SBU, and then spin it off into another SBU and put a CEO there. So this was sort of the model that we created around, and we were able to essentially decide that the way to grow is not by the family taking decisions for everything. The way to grow was trusting people. And when you trust people, a lot of things start happening by itself. And so that was our fundamental philosophy. And in that, every person, every CEO that has come into the system, even exists now in the SBUs, are actually from the company. We did not hire anyone from outside, because we took the talent that we had and said, look, this is a new opportunity for you. Please lead this and prove yourself. And I think that really helped a lot of people. And in that sense, breaking that glass ceiling to a great extent. So we saw in those the challenges that a family member faces is loss of control. That, who's going to take all these decisions? Who's going to meet the customer? And that was a challenge to let go. And we started doing that. In fact, from our family members, the 3 family members who are involved in the business, we've not signed a single check in the company for more than 15 years.
Right.
So everything is, if the group CFO, the respective SBUs do all the accounting, they sign all the checks, and beyond a certain amount of strategic decisions, all day-to-day decisions are taken by the respective SBUs.
That's fantastic. And also I think in the context of India, it's been commendable how the company's also been governed by the board, which has got a lot of independent senior directors on it over a period of time. And it's evolved as a beacon of good governance in many ways here. And that's not me saying, that's something, as I was kind of conducting my own little bit of research for our conversation, I came across those comments in the public domain. So, my compliments to you and to the family on that.
We've been very tech oriented for the longest time. And I think we had a person who used to be head of MIS and systems in the 80s. So like this, the journey has been quite good. And really, we are in the tech age right now, and we cannot be away from technology. in any aspect of our business.